Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So obviously today's been dominated by Naoya Inoue's devastating performance over Stephen Fulton. And rightly so, he's getting all the plaudits. But I just wanted to make a quick video in relation to Robeisy Ramirez, who was the co-main event. He fought over in Japan and defended his WBO featherweight title. In doing so, he stops Satoshi Shimizu in 5 rounds. One-sided fight. Robeisy Ramirez was always in control before eventually closing the show in devastating fashion. I have to say, when Ramirez turned pro, like everybody, I was doubtful whether he would make a success of it. Obviously, Ramirez had an amazing amateur pedigree, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, etc. He really completed the game in the amateurs. But when he turned pro, I wasn't sure. Obviously, he lost his pro debut against Adnan Gonzalez, I think it was. And in that fight, to me, he just looked very naive. Very naive. He got dropped in that fight and was kind of outmanned. Since then, he's rebounded. He's won every fight since. He's now 13-1, 8 of his 13 wins coming by way of knockout. And since that first loss in his debut, Ramirez really has come on leaps and bounds, to the point to where many people believe him to be the best guy at featherweight right now. Now, I wouldn't be ready to say that, but regardless, the improvements he's made have been pretty impressive. One of the key aspects of it, I think, was him employing a strength and conditioning coach to his team. Seems to be punching harder now. He's really honing his pro style. You know, he's turning into a bit of a boxer puncher, I would say. His first few fights, he was a bit too fancy, a bit too point scory, like the amateur style. But yeah, the last few fights he's turned it around and he's starting to look good, in my opinion. And he really dismantled of Satoshi Shimizu in devastating fashion. Shimizu himself was actually a decorated amateur, 2-time Olympian, former bronze medalist, but he was 37 years old and he really had nothing for Ramirez. He was slow, he was cumbersome. He had a big size advantage, but he really never utilized it. He was kind of following Ramirez around, throwing slow 1-2s. It looked to me like he was just trying to kind of use his size advantage on Ramirez and bully him, but Ramirez really was just taking advantage of Shimizu's aggression, and he was walking him into left hands. He was working the body well, going up and down, and quite frankly, it was kind of target practice for Ramirez. And a guy like Robeisy Ramirez, I think, kind of highlights the changing styles in Cuban fighters turning pro. Back in the day, Cuban fighters had the reputation of, let's be honest, stinking out the joint. Guys like Guillermo Rigondeaux, for example, Richard Abril, another one. These guys had the reputation of being safety first, overly defensive, negative in their approach, and they never really endeared themselves to fight fans. However, I've got the impression that now Cuban fighters have finally gotten the memo that boxing is a spectator sport. You see guys like Robeisy Ramirez, who's not scared to mix things up, who's not scared to sit down on his punches and make a fight of it. You know, we saw that in this fight and his last few fights now. David Morrell, another one who is coming through from Cuba. He's actually a lot younger than Robeisy Ramirez. I think he's like 24 at super middleweight. And he himself is another guy who really likes to mix it up, you know. He likes to sit down on those punches and go for knockouts and look for hurtful shots. I do wonder now whether we're seeing a change in the Cuban pro style. Even Andy Cruz, who recently turned pro, had his debut. I know he never stopped Juan Carlos Burgos, and he was moving at times, but at other times he was letting his hands go, sitting down on his shots, mixing things up. It looks now like Cuban fighters are choosing to be more endearing to regular fight fans, and I think that's good to see. And I see Ramirez as one of those guys. I find it quite enjoyable watching Robeisy Ramirez fight these days. I like his style, I like his creativeness in regards to his offense. He will try to sit in the pocket at times and bang and fire shots. Don't get me wrong, he can still box and move, things of that nature, but he doesn't rely on that. He will try to, like I say, mix things up and make it fun, and he did that in this fight. He was in there with like an overmatched guy. He could have easily picked and poked for 12 rounds, shut out Shimizu and made it boring, but no, he went for the stoppage and he got it. So yeah, Ramirez looked good, and I'm interested to see where he goes next in his career. Of course, Robeisy Ramirez is at featherweight, and at featherweight there's 4 world champions. There's Rey Vargas, who's got the WBC, Lee Wood's got the WBA, Ramirez has the WBO, and Luis Alberto Lopez has the IBF. And that's the fight to make for me. Luis Alberto Lopez versus Robeisy Ramirez. Both guys are with Top Rank, so theoretically it's a makeable fight. It's a fight that should happen in the near future. And that's the one I want next. I think they are the 2 best guys at featherweight right now. Rey Vargas, good champion. Lee Wood, good champion. But I happen to believe Robeisy Ramirez and Luis Alberto Lopez are the best at that weight class. And that's the fight I want to see next. And to me, that fight's fascinating. You've got a really awkward pressure fighter in Luis Alberto Lopez, and you have a guy in Robeisy Ramirez who can mix and match. He can be the boxer puncher, he can move, he can box, etc. I think that's a really fascinating fight. And who knows, if Ramirez can maybe beat Lopez, becomes a unified champion, builds his name, maybe there could be an Inoue fight down the line, because Inoue looks like he's going to fight Tapales in the super bantamweight division. If Inoue becomes undisputed again at super bantamweight, maybe Inoue then moves to featherweight, and who knows, maybe Ramirez Inoue down the line could be a big fight. But yeah, in short, I was impressed with Ramirez on this undercard. He really took apart Shimizu in devastating fashion. The finishing sequence was beautiful. He hurt Shimizu with an uppercut, and then followed up with 3 or 4 more, and it basically just destroyed the face of Shimizu. He kind of went down to his knees, and then Ramirez kind of stopped him, and it busted up Shimizu's face. It broke his nose by looks of it. There's a lot of blood. Good finish by Ramirez. And yeah, we'll see where he goes next. But the fight to make next for me is Ramirez versus Lopez. I think that's the best fight in the weight class. But anyway, share your thoughts below. What did you make of Ramirez's performance, and where does he go next? Share your thoughts below. Peace.